Well, here we are, everyone. It is now basically the end of 2022, and if we go ahead and look back at where we were back in 2019 when the sequel trilogy came to a close, compared to where we are right now, you can see the transition or the transparency between both what John and Dave have been doing and what Kathleen Kennedy mainly was doing with the Star Wars franchise. Now, of course, we already know that John and Dave are working around the clock to really bring things up to speed, to really make sure that all of these projects are going to go through production as smoothly as possible to prevent any kind of setbacks or any kind of delays as much as they can. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new universe is that a lot of Star Wars fans around the globe have been very much excited for what Favreau and Filoni are about to unveil at Celebration next year. And I've said this before, that Celebration next year is the real event for the announcements. D23 is just going to be like a bit of a teaser of what's to come, and then all of the real heavy announcements, basically expanding the roadmap, is going to be explored at Celebration. So looking forward to that in Europe. It's going to be a very big time for Star Wars fans without a doubt. And that brings us to where we are now. Now, given that Favreau and Filoni, not so long ago, a couple of months ago, by the way, they got these big promotions all thanks to the Disney executives, and that allows them to do many different things over at Lucasfilm to really take creative control over many of the existing Star Wars projects in a very, full way that allows them to be very flexible and do as they please. And that brings us to exactly what's been going on with, of course, one of the Star Wars projects specifically, and what they really have planned for the future of the Star Wars universe, for, of course, the Mandoverse expanding into something brand new. Now, as of now, Celebration is planned to be the main event for new Star Wars announcements. However, Lucasfilm is already pre-planning on what to announce at Celebration 2024, and how it will center on many of the upcoming Star Wars movies for both Disney Plus and, of course, for theatrical releases. Now, further, it's described that one of the big plans that are now progressing by Disney executives is a new sequel trilogy that is set to focus on Mandalorian characters, including Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker plus others. Now, one of the most recent updates about this project is set to focus on 3 movies that will expand the Skywalker saga and the story of Djarin and Grogu, along with returning Star Wars Legends characters. Favreau and Filoni's big plan is to make this trilogy as a combination of many of the Star Wars shows that are currently in the works. The new trilogy is already set to focus mainly on a young version of Luke Skywalker, just like in Book of Boba, with brand new Jedi students this time around, all of which will be teased in Mando Season 4. Now, the new films are set to feature on a brand new story that will involve both Luke and Ahsoka along with the new generation of Jedi, while the other part of the story is set to focus on Din Djarin, Grogu, Boba Fett, and Bo-Katan. The general aim for these new movies is to make it a mixture of the stories of the Jedi and the Bounty Hunters, and how those two stories eventually come together for this new trilogy that was recently pitched by Favreau and Lucas that is now in the early stages. Now, let me just pause here quick for a second before I get to the more exciting stuff. The thing about this, and we talked about this about 2 weeks ago, give or take, that this new trilogy is basically going to be an expansion of the Mandalorian series, the Ahsoka Tano TV show, and of course the already planned anthology show, Jedi Knight, which is going to feature Luke Skywalker heavily, which they will be announcing also at Celebration. Now, these new movies, they're not going to be coming out in 24. It's most likely aimed for either 25 or 26, because no movies will be coming out before 24, given that it's already basically 2023. There's a lot of things on the horizon, though, of new Star Wars movies slated for theatrical releases, and, of course, to actually arrive on Disney Plus. This, of course, being one of them. This new trilogy, the majority of Disney executives want to get this thing out on Disney Plus instead of throwing this in the theaters. This is something, I don't know about you guys, that I really disagree with. I feel that at the very minimum, a trilogy based on the Mandalorian series should be thrown into the theaters to really kind of introduce it to common moviegoers. You know, I think it would be a very good way, actually, to make new fans and to get these fans involved in the Mandoverse. You know, when you have The Mandalorian and all these other Star Wars shows, you gotta remember that it's primarily only for Disney Plus subscribers that are really getting introduced to these shows and or word of mouth. Meanwhile, when you have an actual movie out in the theaters, there's a lot of common moviegoers that just watch those movies on the fly, and they either get interested in the franchise or they don't. And a lot of the cases, they do get interested in the franchise. That's exactly how, you know, Disney was able to make, you know, a handful of new fans with the sequel trilogy movies to get invested in with Star Wars. I have seen so many comments here that a lot of you were new fans that were just getting introduced to Star Wars. You have never watched the originals or the prequels, and you're just getting into it now because of the sequels. So that's the great thing about movies arriving in theaters, is that it's almost like an advertisement for the actual franchise, the common moviegoers. So moving forward from that, now the current Star Wars shows are now primarily being made to build up to this new trilogy in order to boost the familiarity for these characters with the Mandoverse of the Star Wars franchise. The theme of the new trilogy is to essentially give fans a proper sequel trilogy that will also bring a return of characters like Han Solo and Leia, done in ways with brand new technology that ILM recently created that goes beyond de-aging and deepfake tech. Favreau and Lucas are already looking to hire new creatives to come on board of this new trilogy that will be deeply inspired from Star Wars Legends, that will feature a new struggle with the characters of Thrawn and a brand new war that's going to take place in, of course, this new trilogy of films. Now, what's really exciting about this too is that basically this is going to be the true sequel trilogy that should have been right from the very beginning. Now, obviously, they couldn't have done this because Mark Hamill was older, as well as Harrison Ford. They wanted to rely on the actual actors without de-aging them per se, and to kind of move forward with that. This, however, is going to be a trilogy that's going to feature the Skywalkers, and it's going to feature all of your fan favorite characters in different ways, using ILM's new technology. So, for example, this new trilogy is going to focus on a young version of Luke, just like as we saw in the Book of Boba, using a technology that goes beyond deepfake and or CGI. We're not quite sure what this new tech really is just yet. They will be unveiling it next year. We talked about this, a couple days ago, that ILM has some pretty big technology being done behind the scenes that's going to be used for future Star Wars projects. And that, I think, is the most exciting thing, because then you can really just recreate any character at will, no matter how old or young they really are, if you want to change their age. So overall, there's a lot of things that go into this. You have to have the voice synthesizer on track. It has to sound like Mark Hamill. I'm sure that they're going to be able to do this properly, but it is going to be expensive. But apparently this new tech is going to be less costly than just using flat-out deepfake or CGI. So that's the plus side to it all. So anyways, guys, with that being said, let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.